hi, hello, welcome. Oh, hey, hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and I am going through it. No matter what I do, there's some fucking box in my view. Let's appreciate Dolly for a moment. A queen. I knew moving was gonna be stressful, but like, it sucks us now both working. Nigel, please, full time, because there's not just endless time to devote to getting all these projects done that I want to get done. I did finally decide on a paint color. I won't tell you yet for these shelves, but I'm still waiting to get these floors done because one, this shelf does not sit flat on this carpet and this carpet is hideous. It's just frustrating. It's very first world problems, but I have nowhere good to film. So this is what you see. And Nigel is scared because this pile of blankets is falling over. He's very concerned. So anyway, I thought it would be fun to go and react to some unpopular opinions, but not by, not by like other booktubers or content creators, but I saw a post on Reddit. So I bees in the Reddit streets on the subreddits. I rarely comment though, but I do subscribe or follow several different ones, some for my favorite reality TV franchises, and then I do follow r/books. So most people know what Reddit is. It's like, I guess it's a social media platform, but there's all these subreddits on like any topic you can think of, there's a subreddit. And so this one, books, some people recommend books and people ask questions about books, talk about books. But this one came up. It said, question, what's your hottest literary take? And I was like, ooh, I don't know if I've ever seen this kind of question on here. So I wanted to go through and kind of like react to any, see if they are ones that we share here on like BookTube, Book Twitter, or if there's some new fresh ones. So I'm not gonna go through all of them, especially if I'm like, okay, I don't really get the reference. Like the first one's about Murakami, which I know of, but I haven't read to know like if that's a hot take or not. Leanna, if you're watching, you can tell me, I'll read it. Murakami doesn't write magical realism, he writes surrealism. I don't know, it has a 84 upvote, so maybe that's controversial. He's been running around, so I guess now he's tired. Ew, I'll get, Nigel, any people see you? You come up with me? Wanna come in my lap? Come on, come on. He is such a spoiled brat. He spends half of his day on my lap because he sees me working at the computer, but he doesn't take it as working. He's like, hello, hi, I would like to climb up there. So that's where he spends a good part of his day. Is it comfortable for me? No, but it's comfortable for the baby. That's what matters. Okay, let's see if we can find any other good ones. Little Women should be considered the first young adult novel ever published, not The Outsiders. I believe the reason it's continued to be marketed as a novel for children is because that's how women were perceived at the time of publication. A strong-willed female protagonist with a charming love interest, the tropes are right there. And someone said, you've blown my mind, which is a fair point. I know Ashley from Bookish Realm has definitely talked about this, like how young adult really became like an age group, and The Outsiders, I believe, is the book that's credited with being really the first young adult novel. But I can see their argument for Little Women. Let me know what you think. This is perfect. Oh my god, sorry, I'm just really subconscious about my entire body. But anyway, this is very timely. Not sure if this is unpopular, but Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us is the worst novel I've ever attempted to finish. There is a part of the book where the main character literally says, I don't feel like having sexy sex right now. That is where I stopped. There is no sense of craft. The prose reads like it was written by someone who didn't finish high school. Zero attention to rhythm or imagery. The story feels like it was written for teenage girls or severely underdeveloped adults. The biggest problem is just how pointless the words are. It Ends With Us begins with the most trite and banal reflection of suicide that I have ever read. Every sentence is just so devoid of any substance. The entire book is just a constant narration of what the protagonist is doing. What did you just eat? This carpet is so cheap. It's like, because we don't have a fence yet, and Nigel gets the zoomies, and I can just like there's not much carpet before it's like the backing of the carpet, and you can like, he like digs at it. I'm like, we do not need to have carpet, but we couldn't change it before we moved in. Anyway, Someone said the house in the Cerulean Sea is distractingly bad, to the point where I wonder if it was even edited. My conspiracy theory is that it was written as a young adult but was incorrectly marketed to adults for some reason. I get why some people like it. It's cozy, pleasant story. And as a queer woman, I get the desire for a nice queer fiction where no one dies, but it's simplistic and just not well written and shouldn't be recommended to adults as often as it is. I would like to know what y'all think about it. Hey. Oh. What's up? There's ants in my pants! Sorry, that stuck in my head. Someone said they listed out things, so they just have a list of people who they think are overrated. So for authors, they have Delia Owens, Julian Fellows, Heather Morris, Kristen Hanna, and basically anyone Reese Witherspoon, Oprah, or celeb touts as a must-read. Every time I've read one of these highly popular books, Tattooist of Auschwitz is a definite here. I'm horribly disappointed. They're just not good for various reasons, and I won't bother with them. And anything described as unputdownable, seriously, what the fuck? Maybe I'm a language snob, but that's a red flag for me. Now, I can see for the book clubs, but Kristen Hanna, I mean, I get it. A lot of people might not like her, but I'm on my feelings. Nigel, the people want to see you. Can you stay in my lap? Or at least stay in the video. Here, stay right here. So they can see you. No, not on your feet. You gotta sit like a big boy. Here, you gotta sit like a big boy. So they can see you. People around here are enamored with Project Hail Mary. The science parts are neat. The general story is unique, but the dialogue, awful. I've never read a book where the dialogue completely takes me out of it. I would beg that the general story is not that unique. And yes, the dialogue is so very cringy because, what's the dude's name? I was gonna say Mark Watney, but that's the scientist from the first one. Whatever the author is of Project Hail Mary, that book, oh my God. I think it's just because he has like teenage boy humor and it just does not work for me. And some of the dialogue really just, a lot of the dialogue made me roll my eyes. So I definitely agree there, but it is a very well-liked book by whatever his name is. Adam Driver? No, I can't think of what his name is. Someone says, I felt the same way about The Martian, which is why I don't think I'll read Project Hail Mary, which is very wise. It felt exactly like a guy who thought up some really interesting scenario and then wrote a story on top of them. No hate for Andy. That's his name, Andy Weir. What he did was phenomenal. Okay, let's not get out of hand. And The Martian was certainly entertaining, but he has no ear for dialogue at all. He doesn't. Oh my God, there's a dog right outside the window. I hope Nigel doesn't see it. Nigel, don't look at the dog. Oh no, the dog is being in our yard. Nigel, don't look at the dog. Nigel, don't look at the dog. What is that? You sound like a velociraptor. Don't make eye contact. Now there was a blind here. It fell down. Look at your little body. Oh my God, this is too funny. Nigel. Please. Do you hear him? I'm gonna insert the picture because his little body looks so funny. I don't understand this one because it says the sun also rises better than Great Gatsby, but then it says cold take for context. Gatsby deserves all the praise it gets. So which one is it? When I read The Great Gatsby in high school, I thought I did not like it, but I liked The Sun Also Rises. I have not read either of those in a long time, so I would be very interested to read both of them now and see how I feel. If you've read either of them in the last several years, let me know your thoughts. But yeah, I don't remember, I did not like The Great Gatsby, but for some reason I like The Sun Also Rises. I just remember they went to Spain. YA is just a license to write a terrible novel of any genre. This is just hateration in this dancery. Boo. This person said The Great Gatsby is only popular because it's Fitzgerald's shortest novel and people wanted to seem like an intellectual for reading it. Also, The Side of Paradise and The Beautiful and the Damned by Fitzgerald, both amazing works of fiction that express the excess of rich much better than Gatsby has ever done. I have not read those, so very interesting. I can relate though to wanting to read a short book. Ooh, the author allows us to know too much about authors and prevents us from judging work on its merits. Interesting. Right. Jane Austen's works are pretty much always misread, even by fans. The Count of Monte Cristo is a terribly overrated classic, more moralistic, plotty, unnecessarily long. Suttree is Cormac McCarthy's masterpiece, not Blood Meridian or The Road. William Gass is the best American prose stylist. Give me him over Nabokov any day. Okay. Get down. Look, you look adorable, but this is what we're not going to be doing. You're not going to be standing up in my window. Now, I haven't read any of these people, so I have no comment, but that's very interesting about Jane Austen. Adults who read YA inform their identity around reading YA, like carrying their books around with them in a tote bag emblazoned with "I read YA" as they go to Starbucks for an orange mocha chip frappuccino. Need to grow the fuck up. I feel like this one is personal. They either work in a Starbucks or they work in a Barnes and Noble, and they have encountered said person, and that person has been very rude to them, or maybe not, and they're just spiteful and they hate that tote bag and they hate the drink that they make, because that one was very odd. Very specific. Ooh, self-help books often aren't really that helpful. Very true, but this is the second part that intrigues me. Books aren't inherently better than any form of media, and people who brag about reading should get over themselves. Okay, I don't get over themselves. No, books are not better than other forms of media, but like, just because you talk about reading doesn't mean like you're bragging. I mean, there's probably some people who are like, I read this many books a year in a bragging tone to friends and family, but like, I can't stand that when people try to say one thing isn't better than all the other things, but then tries to knock said thing down. So if reading is not better media, then like let people talk about books and love books. And I don't know, I'm really impressed by people who've watched X amount of shows and movies this year. Like, don't say you want to take up for this media and then put something down. They also said The Tattooist of Auschwitz is such a bad book, and I suspect it has such a high score, 4.3 out of 5 on Goodreads, because it is based on a true story about the Holocaust, but they put in parentheses that it's poorly told. I have heard that that's not a good book. This person said excessive smut in books is unneeded and gross, to be honest. A little to make the characters' connection stronger is great, but when every chapter is about them going at it, it's a real turnoff for me. I mean, I like smut, but when it's like, I don't know. It depends on if the book is going to be a romance. I'm going to need more than just that to build a connection with the characters, but obviously if it's going to be an erotica, then get to the banging. Let's just do it. Objects is so much better than Gone Girl. Madame Bovary is highly annoying, as well as The Age of Innocence and also Anna Karenina. Anna Karenina, the character herself, got on my freaking nerves. I don't know. I will say though that I read Gone Girl was like really one of the first thrillers I read, and I thought it was so amazing, and I can never reread it because I don't want to change my mind. And I read Dark Places, and Sharp Objects later on, and I liked them, but I didn't enjoy them as much. But like, if I was to reread them, it could change, but I'm not, because I'm just gonna hold the Gone Girl experience in my mind because it was phenomenal. I was just like turning pages. I was like, oh my God, what is happening? I mean, this was years ago, and I'm just gonna keep that. I'm gonna cherish that memory. This is another one that is very common. Colleen Hoover's book glamorize abuse, and she's generally a pretty bad writer in comparison to how popular her books are, and it's slightly concerning watching so many teenagers flock to her work on TikTok. Honestly, I was very surprised watching her blow up on TikTok and seeing her book skyrocket in sales over the past few years, especially given back just a few years ago when people started turning on her and began to openly critique November 9. I do remember those days. For a time, there were people critiquing her work, at least in my internet bubble, and then the pandemic hit and it was like a giant PR shift happened, and nearly all the stuff critiquing her, even remotely, just got completely buried. It was likely just more discovering her and burying the critique naturally that way though, but still was weird to watch that rapid shift. Very. I'm still, even after reading all those articles, I'm still flabbergasted by the last few years and her success. But I do remember when there was a time where it was a lot of content around what was in her books. And I remember November 9th, November 9 being one of those. I haven't read that one, but as far as classic literature goes, Jane Eyre and Little Women are dreadful and can be binned by the world forever. Wow, hater. I mean, Little Women's not my favorite, and I haven't read Jane Eyre, but that's a little strong, isn't it? We're getting to some hot ones. This says Sanderson's output is largely due to him playing Mad Libs with characters and plot beats. Not hard to pump out books when you were just shuffling around names and events. A Sanderlanche is literally Sanderson fans learning that stories have climaxes. Wow, that is rude. And someone said, my hot take on Sanderson is that his books suffer from not having sex in them. I don't want Brandon Sanderson to write a sex scene. Stephen King is a pretty bad writer. I've been searching for years for books that I would actually find scary, and of course you always get directed back to Stephen King. So I read The Shining and thought it was sort of meh and too long, but I think my love for the movie pulled me through. I've tried to get through Pet Sematary because everyone says it's the scariest, and all I can think is, God, is Lewis a worse father or doctor? Either way, he's a boring idiot. Now I'm listening to Salem's Lot because everyone says that is scary, and he honestly can't write a paragraph without at least 2 cliches and 3 redundant phrases. All the characters are flat and stupid, and I can't wait for them to die and get it over with. I'm convinced people only like him because the books are long and they just want to kill time. I've only read 2 Stephen King books thus far, and I liked one and was like meh about the other. Actually, I really didn't like that book. Nigel, that dog is not coming back. He just keeps, I mean, it's so cute when he stands in the window, but you gotta stop and get in my window. Sanderson is beyond overrated. It's shocking to see such mediocrity get lauded. My teacher called Sanderson the death of fantasy, and I agree. It's so very, very mediocre. Hearing people applaud it, saying it's the greatest thing, makes you question their entire character. Like, you should read some more. It's 2D characters, awful nonsensical naming conventions, broad but shallow world building. Everything he writes reads like YA. It's so dumbed down. The tell don't show spoon feeding you the story. It's all so tacky and cringe. It's not great. It's mediocre at best. Woo! These people are. This person said the 5th season is horrible. The first few chapters with the main character being super angry are somewhat interesting, and from there it becomes incredibly generic and just keeps getting worse. Okay, you may not like Jemison's writing, you may not like the characters or the story, but one thing you're not gonna say is that the 5th season is incredibly generic. That's one thing you're not gonna say because you're wrong. That's just the fact. That's objective, okay? There's nothing generic about the 5th season. You better back it up. What? To closer to 30 minutes, I'm gonna see if this is, I'll choose one more. So this one, of course, we have to bring this up about audiobooks. So this person said, audiobooks are generally a bad way to retain information. I'm sure there are people out there who can keep up, but I haven't met them yet. I find it very difficult to discuss books with people who listen instead of reading it themselves. It just seems they miss out on so many details and nuance. And then I'm gonna some of the replies. In my opinion, this is a twofold issue with how people consume audiobooks. First and foremost, most people tend to listen to them while engaging in other activities, thus taking away from their focus on the work. Secondly, most audiobook listeners do not skip back in audiobooks to re-listen to a line or pause on a line to think about it. I'll often reread lines I found funny or meaningful and occasionally put the book down to think about them for a minute. At the end of the day, audiobooks make books more accessible, and that does not often come without any cost, regardless of whether you think audiobooks are reading or not. They are different, which is interesting. I can only do audiobooks while I'm doing a very menial task. Like when I'm playing The Sims, if I'm doing like gameplay, I can't listen to an audiobook and pay attention. It's only when I'm like building. If I'm folding clothes, if I'm taking Nigel for a walk, like like just simple things like that. I tried to, I'm still doing like modules for insurance, and I was trying to listen to an audiobook and I couldn't. I was like, I cannot read this information and answer these questions while also listening to an audiobook. I can't do that. Some other people probably can. And often I do, like, especially if I own the audiobook, I'll like bookmark or like mark a spot if it has a quote I love, or I'll go back and listen to it again and I'll like write it in my notes. I go back and replay parts all the time because sometimes I'm like, wow, I just wasn't paying attention. I kind of let my mind drift, and I'll have to skip back and re-listen. So I'm sure there are people who don't, but I don't know. I guess it depends on the person. So I don't know how spicy those got. Only a few I found I was like, wow, I really disagree with you. But many of you may have reactions to the other ones. So let me know your thoughts down below. Did any of those strike you as like, oh my fucking God, I haven't heard that before. How dare you? I would love to know, but thank you for joining me in this chaotic video with Nigel witnessing a dog. I'm about to go lay down. But I hope you're all doing well. Give this video a thumbs up. Always check out the description. You can find ways to support the channel if you want to join my Patreon, ways to find me on the internet. And I think that's it. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, and sunscreen. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.